Hello, my name is Daniel Derflinger. I am the middle and high school music teacher here at Weatherly, and I'm sure that your district, much like ours, has had a number of changes and adjustments made throughout this school year. And as a result of that, teachers like us have had to adjust and readjust our schedules and our expectations and sometimes our job titles throughout the course of the year. I'd like to take this time to talk through how our district made these adjustments and changes and the various roles that we, especially as specials teachers, have played as the school year has progressed. So let's dive in. As I started thinking about the various ways that teachers here at Weatherly have had to adjust and then readjust and then readjust, I wanted to make a timeline that tried to show visually how things have changed over the course of the school year thus far. Back in July, we had a Zoom meeting with our administration that was an informative time for us to try to figure out exactly what to expect in the coming school year. That looked very different for the specials teachers like me because we were not going to be teaching our normal subject areas. In fact, we knew that we were going to be needing some extra classroom space to accommodate for social distancing, and we needed to be pulled from our normal classes, and we were going to be teaching an elementary class. We were told that we needed to go ahead and get our emergency certification so that we could teach those extra elementary school classes. As we got closer to the actual school year, however, we were told that we were going to be all virtual and that we would not be needed in those extra classrooms, at least just not yet. Instead, there was a big push for students to join, if they would like to, our Cyber Academy, which we call WAVE for our Weatherly area virtual education. And our specials teachers were being given a grade or two to monitor the assessments there. We were told that the learning would be predominantly done aside from us, that we wouldn't really have much to do except to check in with our students periodically. We just didn't know what to expect. And as the school year went on, we learned that there was a little bit more involved, especially with grading with our Cyber Academy. So it took a little bit of adjusting to get used to that again. As the second marking period started to approach, we as a district had made the decision to bring back our students into the building gradually. So the pre-K up through second grade was slated to return, and a couple of us specials teachers were again being told that we would be in a elementary classroom because they needed the extra space. As we got closer to the beginning of the school year, however, we discovered that there were fewer students actually coming back physically in person, so we would not be needed in that official capacity, and we would be kind of helping out in some way. 2 weeks after the pre-K and second grade returned, our third graders through our sixth graders returned to the building as well. For some of us, that didn't make a huge difference. It meant that we would be helping just more classrooms in various ways. We'd be stopping in to make sure that they had everything they needed, that technology was working appropriately, that if they needed a bathroom break, we could step in and do that. However, for one of our specials teachers, she was actually pulled to be an extra third grade classroom teacher, which looked a good bit different than a traditional third grade classroom. A couple weeks after the third through sixth grade return, we had our middle schoolers, the seventh through eighth graders, return to the building as well. And all of this only lasted for about 2 weeks after the eighth graders and seventh graders returned, because we, in December, went back to a return to virtual learning. And that lasted until January, where there was a push again for students to come back into the building. This time we had some high schoolers come to the school board, and they were really wanting to demonstrate that the high schoolers wanted to be back in the building as well. So they spoke to the school board, and they had made a collective decision that we were going to bring back not only the pre-K through eighth grade that had already been back, but also to bring back the high schoolers as well. That is roughly where we are today. There have been a couple road bumps along the way. The expectation of the pre-K through 12th graders is that if there are multiple teachers out, we don't have the staff to cover for them. There aren't as many substitute teachers available as there once were for various reasons. So if we have more than a certain number of teachers out, then we're just having to go to a virtual day. And up until now, we are very blessed and we've not had that happen, but that is the understanding among the community members up until now. So speaking personally, I've had a lot of various changes in my expectations, especially a deviation from normal. Under normal circumstances, I'm teaching middle school band and choir and high school band and choir and another class or two. This year, I have had a full-time kindergarten teacher position. That didn't actually happen, although I have filled in for that classroom a couple of times. I was, and still am, the cyber school 6th grade teacher, although I have much fewer students than I started out with. I was at one point supposed to be taking over an extra 6th grade classroom, which same thing happened. There were not as many students that were in the building as they originally thought. I do currently have my 7th and 8th grade general music students that I see both in person and online. So that has been a little bit of normalcy for me. I have also had to be a substitute teacher, as I have filled in for whatever teacher happens to be out, regardless of the grade. I have filled in for anywhere from kindergarten up through high school math and a few other places in between. In addition to that, I've also been the person to go through the halls during our lunchtime and to see if anybody needs a bathroom break, and I would be supervising their lunchtime. So I've been wearing a number of different hats throughout this school year, and I think this comic graphic over here pretty much sums up how a lot of us are feeling so far this school year. I do want to point out, though, that amongst all these changes, the motivation behind the decisions that were being made by our district has always been the best interest of our students. There has not been any weird hidden agenda behind everything. I believe that our administration all over the place has been really working hard to balance what's been given down by the state and what the community has been wanting, what their expectations were, what the concerns were on the parts of the teachers, and making sure that everybody is staying safe and that we're able to have the right number of students in the classroom. And also student input. As I mentioned earlier, we had some high schoolers come before the school board, and they had taken a survey and they wanted to show to the school board what they were wanting as far as coming back into the building again. Throughout all of this, it's been great to see a lot of collaboration, especially on the part of teachers working together, trying to figure out all the various changes with technology and all the PPE and everything else that we've had to adjust to throughout this school year. And it's been great to see us working as a team from the bottom to the top. As we've been going throughout the year, flexibility has been the name of the game. So a couple tips I have for you that have worked well for me as I've been shifting all over the place and trying to adjust. First is breathing often. I have 3 young kids, and I have to remind them regularly to do this as well. But taking in those deep breaths, letting them linger, taking some good breaths out. If I'm ever feeling overwhelmed, or if I'm being told that I'm about to have some drastically different thing happen with my schedule, it's a good reminder to just breathe. The second thing is to focus on others. It can be easy for me to have a woe is me attitude and to say this isn't fair, this isn't what I've been trained to do, or something like that. But when I started to shift my focus and think about how I'm actually able to help other teachers in some way, and I'm able to encourage them in some way as I'm doing these various things for them, that has helped to change my mindset and to turn it into a positive thing. Thirdly, I've been encouraged to reach out for help, especially with my online 6th grade students. I don't generally teach 6th grade science or 6th grade social studies, so there are some things that pop up here and there, and I'm not exactly sure what is being asked, or I don't understand the concept. So reaching out to other teachers who have been teaching this subject area for a number of years has been super helpful. Amanda Durr is going to come on and speak on this more in her section on the power of connections. The fourth one is to look for learning moments. I have learned a lot this school year that I would not have learned during a normal school year. And some of those things I may not have really cared to learn, but again, looking for the positives on how many different skills I have picked up and how I've been able to help other teachers do the same throughout the process has been a good, positive outlook. The last one is to not be afraid to speak up. There are some changes that are just not good. It's not uncommon for us to have these situations pop up where we find that something is not working out as well as it could have been or should have been. And it's okay to go to the administrators or go to a teacher and to just let that be known. Hey, this change that you're proposing, I don't think it's going to work very well. And to get that collaboration going and to have that feedback and to try to find a better solution if possible. I want to leave you with a section of a poem by Henry Wadsworth Longfellow. It's called Excelsior. Many of you probably have heard this or read this when you were younger, maybe in school. but Excelsior being like upward and onward and higher. So this is from towards the beginning of the poem. It says, "The shades of night were falling fast, as through an alpine village passed a youth who bore mid snow and ice a banner with the strange device, Excelsior." I know I felt very much like this youth this past year as I'm going through mid snow and ice, sometimes literally, and trying to push forward and to go higher and to do better. It's only after we've come across a mountain that we can look and see that there's another one to climb and that we are able to climb it because of what we just gone through. So I hope that this session has been informative for you. It's been helpful to see how other districts have come through this school year so far and have adjusted to the various changes. And I hope that you have been able to adjust and readjust sometimes if needed, and have been able to come through on the other side even better and stronger for it.
Hello, my name is Amanda Durr, and I am currently in my 14th year of teaching at Weatherly Elementary Middle School in Weatherly, Pennsylvania. I am, under normal circumstances, the pre-K through 6th grade general music teacher, as well as the elementary band director and elementary chorus director. However, this year has actually provided new opportunities. I am now the kindergarten and 1st grade Weatherly area virtual education teacher, as well as a 3rd grade classroom proctor. What my new responsibilities include are grading the assignments that our kindergarten and 1st grade online students submit, as well as meeting with them individually to just do some academic checkups and make sure that they're understanding the curriculum and concepts that they are learning. For our 3rd graders, I actually help them connect via Zoom with their 3rd grade teachers who are in the neighboring classrooms so that they can still receive that education, but we are then able to maintain social distance protocols for the safety of our students and our staff. And one lesson that I really want to stress today is the power of connection. Now, of course, on a daily basis, we as teachers connect with many people. The list is endless. But just to kind of put them into groups, we of course have our colleagues and administrators. We may even connect with some outside networks, meaning people in neighboring school districts, maybe intermediate unit people, as well as in universities and colleges, anything like that. And then, of course, we connect with parents and family members, and then our students. So let's talk a little bit more about the experts and how we can branch out to form new relationships and networks to better assist our students and, of course, ourselves as teachers. We all know about faculty and department meetings, which are fantastic resources. However, I'm going to highly encourage you to branch out and speak to other people in your school. For example, I've had a lot of great conversations with our kindergarten teachers so that they can share their tips and tricks of how they teach our students in school how to learn to read. And then I can pass on that information to my students who are online at home and better assist them. I'm also, of course, talking more with our 3rd grade teachers. We talk at least twice a day, once in the morning and then once after the students leave, just to discuss what they're going to be teaching curriculum-wise, as well as just how are the students doing and what ideas do we have to make things a little bit better. I highly encourage you to speak with teachers and administrators in neighboring school districts. With the new online curriculum that we're using for our virtual students, it's very new, but it is connected with the intermediate unit. And at Weatherly, we're very fortunate that our liaison at the intermediate unit has weekly Zoom meetings with us, as well as individuals that are in the same roles teaching this new curriculum. And we meet, we have a shared Google Drive, as well as slides and videos that we've shared with one another just to better understand the program and to help us become better teachers with it, as well as to help our students and their learning coaches at home. I'm very fortunate that in these meetings, I've also been able to branch out specifically with the teacher who teaches kindergarten and first grade in the neighboring school district, and we are able to meet individually. So it's been a great network that has been created through the intermediate unit. I also encourage you to attend virtual conferences and webinars. Of course, you already see the value in that if you're watching this video. It's very neat too because you can actually have access to individuals all over the world. Last spring, I was able to attend a webinar with someone who lives in Australia, and she was able to share her information. And that's an opportunity that I may not have had if we wouldn't have had this online webinar. Finally, I just encourage you to maybe check out social media. Many of us are already on it in our personal lives, but I've found a lot of professional Facebook groups and Instagram accounts that have helped me find new ideas for teaching. Now let's talk about our students. Many of these ideas are not new to most of you. However, the main thing that I want to point out is they can be done virtually if you haven't already tried. So number one is About Me surveys and finding out about your students outside of your classroom. What do they like to do? What is their favorite color? And what do they feel they're really good at? And even our youngest students can tell you what they think they're good at. And it's awesome to learn that information about them and to also then use those strengths to their advantage in any academic endeavor that they have in your classroom. Birthdays, of course, are usually celebrated more traditionally with our younger students, but I'm just going to throw an idea out there. What if you had a certificate and you gave it to a middle school student or a high school student? Yeah, they might think it's corny, and that's okay, but maybe, just maybe, it might brighten their day to learn that their teacher actually recognized their birthday. Something to think about. With our current program platform that we're using for our virtual students, we have the opportunity to provide videos back as feedback for assignments and assessments. That has been a great tool for me to help connect with my students. They realize that I am actually looking at their work, and I can then comment on it and give them that visual and oral feedback that they would receive in the traditional classroom. Of course, connecting through virtual meetings, which many of us already do. To be honest with you, until last April, I never heard about Zoom, and now I use it every day. And then finally, just positive notes and rewards, which we probably already do. But this is a picture of a postcard that I sent to one of my students, just encouraging them to keep up the great work. Students love receiving mail, just saying. Next, let's just talk about some ways that have helped me have successful relationships with my students' parents, their families. So start out with, in the beginning, if you can, hand out a survey to find out what is the best time to reach them, as well as how to reach them, because that shows them that, all right, I'm going to get in touch with you. I need to know what works best for you so that we can form that bond. Weekly emails and newsletters are great. And then this third one really is important to me. Be humble. They know their child. Find out what they think works best and then use it to your advantage to help that student succeed. Of course, positive postcards are great, and then snail mail thank yous. I actually included, this is a picture of something that I sent to my kindergarten and first grade students for Thanksgiving. And the very first paragraph from the letter, I know it's not easy to see, but it's actually a thank you to their families for all the help that they have been providing. And let me tell you, that was a great way to form a connection. Now, one last connection I want to speak about, and that is the connection with yourself. So, why? Why did you become a teacher? Or better yet, why are you still a teacher? We all know that unfortunately there are a lot of people leaving the profession, but you are still here. Why is that? What drives you to be successful? What are your strengths? And how can you use them to help your students? So I found that my why was that I just wanted students to help students realize how awesome they are and what their potential is. Guaranteed, it was more along the lines of music-wise, but when I sat back this year and actually realized that that can work for any content area. And I found this quote that I think is really important from Brad Montague. He wrote a book called Becoming Better Grownups, and he's also the creative genius behind the Kid President videos. And he says, "Be who you needed when you were younger." I think that's just such a powerful quote, and I will admit there are some days where I hit it out of the park, and I am exactly that teacher that I needed. Other days, not so great. But it's something to keep in mind to help you remember why you are there. And one last thing that I want to encourage you to do. So once you've found your why or you remembered it, write it down somewhere. You can keep it close by, maybe put it on a sticky note. I have a little note to myself, and I have it in my desk, a desk drawer at school. So for those of you that are super creative, you can make a poster or frame a picture and hang it in your classroom. That way you can see it. And if your students see it, that's even better too, because they know why you're there then. And then another great positive idea that I thought about was a personal ongoing top 10 list of your educational successes. Now, you might be able to sit down right now and list all 10, and that is so awesome for you. But if you're like me, it takes a little while to think, so maybe it could be something that is ongoing. Think about that time that you reached that one student, or just something that just made you light up with happiness and remembered why you became a teacher. I highly recommend that you try and do something like this. It will help you get through some of those not so great days. And if your year has been anything like mine, there's been quite a few of those, but it's always helped me to remember why I became a teacher. So I hope you can form that connection with yourself again as well. I wish you the best of luck, and I hope you're able to try some of these ideas so that you can create better connections with all the educational stakeholders.
Hi, my name is Katie Leach, and it was my job during this year to help our teachers work through the online program, help our parents understand how it worked as well, and help their students. And the main key thing that we brought from all of this is that we really have to remember teachers and parents, we're all a team in helping our students to work and navigate through the coursework. We knew that our teachers had been given a hand that we were dealt of new assignments, as you heard from Amanda and Dan. The parents were just struggling to know what was best for their own children, whether it's a hybrid situation or with teachers at Weatherly. And administration kept getting new rules and new regulations, always changing. Our district decided to use our own virtual program. We used an established online curriculum with a third-party provider, but we used our own teachers instead of the third-party's providers' teachers. And it is called, our program, Weatherly Area Virtual Education, or WAVE for short. The teachers and parents began struggling as we started because there was so much to learn. The arrows back and forth give you an idea of the frustration on both sides. The teachers were trained in the summer, but we weren't sure what we were teaching. When we found out from the parents what option they chose, then we could come back and see what courses the teachers should teach and assignments were made for teaching. When the teachers started reaching out to the students and parents to give them information, it was too much. It was just too much and not very intuitive in the information that was given to us by the third-party provider. So the teachers were trying to learn their new program at the same time trying to help the students and the parents know what was going on. And that led to a lot of frustration on both sides. The parents' complaints were how we send assignments so teachers can see them. Where were the answers? A lot of the parents thought because they're a teacher guide, or a learning coach guide, that they should have all the questions and answers, but they could not have access to the answers. They also said the pacing was changing. Each time a student did something when other things were due changed, and we had to explain that that was the nature of this program. Parents thought there was too much work and too difficult for the age level that their children were in. And they wanted to know where their guide was. Where is a guide that they could find that could help them along? And we gave them what we had, but a parent kept saying, no, there's more, there's more. As a teacher, we could not see some of the assignments students were turning in. The students were not connecting them and sharing them in the right folder, and that was a big problem at first. We had too much information in too many places. We also had trouble finding out just the answer to one question that we needed. It seemed like there was so much information. We had questions from parents that we couldn't answer. We also could not find the answers they were looking for. And then the biggest frustration for a while was that the parents weren't giving us ways to communicate with them. They weren't sharing their emails with us, and they would give us phone numbers, but the phone numbers were not a working phone number. So we had frustration with that and ended up actually mailing some of the parents to ask for their information to contact them. The key points we learned from all of this: we are a team working together. We had to try every possible way to contact the parents. We had to meet with them in their choice of format because some were very hesitant to use the technology. We would have them come in. We would have them connect by phone call, use Zoom, whatever was best for the parent. And then last, we would ask them what they needed to help their children be successful and do everything possible that they wanted to do. And that's what we did. And finally, a parent said, look, here is the learning guide we're looking for. Doesn't Weatherly have one? And when we looked at it, we realized we could make this, and that's what we did. We created a parent guide with all the steps and instructions for the parent and the student. We took all their questions that they asked, put it in a table of content so that whenever they needed something, they could immediately go to the question that they had and find it in the table of contents. And then I went step by step and created it with actually the information. For example, here on our screen now is the way to record an audio recording. So I told them where they can go, the website. I gave them instructions, had the red arrow, and showed them exactly where to go. And then I would proceed and go step by step on how they could get that file to their teacher. This has been a help for us. I hope it is helpful for you to think about maybe doing a something like this, a learning guide or a parent handbook to help them in their online program. I'll also close with a quote: unity is strength. When there is teamwork and collaboration, wonderful things can be achieved. Thank you for joining us. We hope that you have walked this journey and maybe can identify when Dan talked about his ever-changing jobs, and Amanda, the reaching out that we've needed to do just to get help and support and strength and knowledge from everyone else, and then this way to communicate with parents. Again, thank you so much for joining us today.